I'm Scott Wyman, the Training and Technology Coordinator at Central Texas College. This time we're going to talk about sexual harassment. So here are our objectives. Number one, we're going to give you the definition of sexual harassment so that you know exactly what it is if you see it or hear it or are a victim of it. We're going to look at the anti-harassment discrimination policy. That's going to be policy 220. We'll look at steps to prevent sexual harassment. We'll look at actions you can take if you're being harassed. We're going to explain the complaint process again, and then we'll list steps in the reporting procedure. So I'm also going to throw into this policy 210, which is our grievance procedures. If you want to read exactly what you're supposed to do to file a complaint, that's the policy you should read. And who knows, maybe even throw in a little bit of policy 250, our dress code. All right, here we go. So this is the definition of sexual harassment. Unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature. You'll notice that there's a word missing from this harassment definition that was in the other definition of harassment, and that is repeated. Repeated. Sexual harassment does not have to be repeated. It depends on the severity of the action that occurred. Okay, so a single isolated incident does not make sexual harassment. However, a single isolated incident could make sexual harassment. It just depends on what was done. Normally, if it's something that was said, that won't rise to the level of sexual harassment, I guess, unless it would be very, very, very graphic of what you said or what was said to you. Now, there are two different types of sexual harassment. There is quid pro quo, which means this for that. This is where an individual, be it a supervisor or someone in a perceived position of power, offered you something that's going to enhance your job, pay, or career in return for a sexual favor. Okay, there's a direct correlation there. Sex for something job-related. We don't see this as much as we used to. There was a time when this kind of behavior happened quite often. I don't know if it happened here at CTC. I haven't been here that long. I've only been here 15 years, and I've only seen maybe one or two sexual harassment complaints. Well, I didn't see them, but I was told that we had them, okay? So before that, I don't know. But I was in the Air Force for 22 years, and yeah, it happened a lot in my younger days, but as time went by, it became more and more, awareness became more and more prevalent. So people became more and more aware of what should and shouldn't be done, okay? So we saw this quid pro quo behavior start to dwindle down. It still happens. It's probably going to happen as long as there are people in positions of power who want some sort of sexual gratification. You know, when a victim succumbs to this type of request, it just increases that person's, their perceived power over you. So that's why it's so important that we report things, okay? All right, the second type of sexual harassment is what's called the hostile environment harassment. This is the off-color jokes, comments about body parts or the sex life, suggestive pictures or posters which have no place here at CTC, staring, oogling at people, excessive attention, touching, and then it's in its most extreme form, assault and rape. So those are the two types. Normally, if we see a harassment case nowadays, it's going to be more of the hostile environment type of complaint. All right, so here we go. We're going to jump right into policy 220. This is our anti-harassment and discrimination policy. The purpose is to clearly establish that CTCD prohibits harassment and discrimination by and of its employees and to set forth procedures by which allegations may be made, investigated, and resolved. This policy applies to everyone on CTC premises. Okay? All CTCD employees at all locations, as well as visitors, contractors, students, etc. So if anybody ever asks you if there's a harassment and discrimination policy for students, here it is. Again, you can find this online. HR Policies and Procedures Manual. Go to the faculty and staff webpage and you'll find it in there. Okay, the policy has some definitions, and we've already talked about all the definitions. Well, I've given you all the definitions, right? So this is unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, yada, yada, yada. And then it goes on to add any other conduct of a sexual or gender-based nature that harasses, disrupts, or interferes with the work performance, or that creates an intimidating, offensive, or hostile work environment. This is where, if you're the victim or even a witness, this is how it made you feel. It made the environment uncomfortable. It was an offensive environment where the individual was hostile, as it turned it into a hostile environment. These are the key words that you're going to have to use for those. We've already gone over unlawful harassment, right? Repeated unwelcome and offensive slurs, jokes, other oral, written, oral, graphic, yada, 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 right? Based on a protected category. Unlawful discrimination. This also could be or fall under the category of hostile environment, right? So I want to point out here all of the protected categories for CTC's policy. If an employment decision is based on the employee's race, color, religion, national origin, gender, age, disability, veteran status, genetic information, sexual orientation, gender identity, or transgender status, or any other protected category under state or federal law. So that's an expanded list. So CTC takes this stuff seriously. If there's a male employee who wants to wear what are traditionally known as women's clothes, fine, let them. Women wear men's clothes all the time, don't they? Pants, shirts, okay? That's not an EEO situation because someone who you believe is wearing the wrong clothes. All right, so the policy itself, the meat of the policy. Harassment, assault, or discrimination in violation of this policy or any state or federal law is not tolerated. It is CTCD's policy that all employees should enjoy a work environment free from harassment and discrimination based on any of the protected categories listed in this policy. This policy is rigorously enforced throughout CTCD. Immediate and appropriate discipline up to and including termination of employment will be imposed on any employee found guilty of harassment or discrimination. So again, we take this stuff seriously, but nothing can be done about it if you don't report it. You know the reporting procedures. Use those reporting procedures. Document, document, document. Document it, report it. Document, report it. Document, report it. You're also going to document when you report it. Allegations will be fully investigated and could result in disciplinary action up to and including termination of employment. Investigation information and allegations of harassment, assault, or discrimination will be discussed only on a need-to-know basis. Remember earlier I told you that you don't have a right to know what appropriate action was taken against the alleged offender? This is what I was talking about. Just because you filed the complaint doesn't mean you get all the information. You do not have a legal need to know that. And then, of course, all this information is confidential. All right, the policy continues. CTCD and its employees shall not retaliate against any person, employee, or student who, in good faith, reports perceived harassment or discrimination. Remember that, in good faith, because we're going to see something here in just a little bit that also addresses that. And then paragraph D just talks about the training requirements, okay? And I mentioned the training requirements at the beginning of the first video. Next, we have the procedures for sexual harassment and discrimination. Any employee who believes that a supervisor, manager, other employee, or non-employee's actions or words constitute unwelcome harassment or discrimination has a responsibility to report or complain about the situation as soon as possible. Did you catch that? Has a responsibility to report or complain about the situation as soon as possible. Remember I said don't wait 180 days? Document it and report it. Document it and report it. Don't wait. The longer you wait, the more people forget. You gotta get in there and get these issues addressed while it's still fresh in people's minds. Since issues are best resolved at the lowest level, employees are encouraged to discuss the complaint with the individual or individuals who acted or behaved in a harassing or discriminatory manner. Don't wait for situations to rise to the level of offensiveness, because we're not all offended at the same level. I spent 27 years in the military. There's probably nothing you can do to offend me. However, I'll be one of the first ones to recognize inappropriate behavior. We're professionals here. We're expected to behave as such. And that's not just in front of the students, it's everybody. Co-workers, supervisors. We need to always be on our best behavior. So again, if somebody comes up and tells you that you did something or said something that they found offensive or inappropriate, take that to heart and don't do it again. If an employee does not feel comfortable discussing the problem with the individual, he or she should follow the reporting chain below. And again, this is the same thing that I mentioned earlier. Your immediate supervisor. If things aren't resolved after reporting to your immediate supervisor, go to their supervisor. If you're not comfortable discussing the matter with anybody in your supervisory chain, you can contact HR. Call and ask to speak to Jackie. Call and ask to speak to Miss Jordan, or associate. No. Did you catch that? Has a responsibility to report or complain about the situation as soon as possible. That means now, today, don't wait. Just because Title VII gives you 180 days, Texas follows that same 180-day requirement. Don't wait 180 days. When it happens, you document and then you report it. If it happens again, you document and you report it. Every time it happens, you document and you report it. It's your responsibility. It doesn't say, well, if you want to, go ahead and report it. No. It's your responsibility. It's my responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility to support this policy. Right? We all have the right to work in an environment that's free from harassment and discrimination. Supervisors enforce the policy. They're the ones that give us that environment. They provide us that environment. And if your environment is hostile, offensive, or intimidating, you need to go to your supervisor. Document, report. Who, what, when, where, why, and how it made you feel. It goes on to say that since issues are best resolved at the lowest level, employees are encouraged to discuss the complaint with the individual or individuals who acted or behaved in a harassing or discriminatory manner. So like I said, go to the source, talk to the individual first. If you're not comfortable with that, then go to your supervisor. If your supervisor is the problem, go to their supervisor. If you're not comfortable discussing it with anybody in your chain of command, you can always come to HR or call and talk to Ms. Jordan, our Chief Human Resource Officer. She's here in Building 557 in room C103, and there's her phone number, 1128. Give her a call. But know that if you call to report a situation or an incident, that you're going to be asked to provide a written statement to including names of witnesses. This isn't one of those situations where you can call and complain and hang up and forget about it. We need documentation. Who, what, when, where, why, and how it made you feel. Have you heard that before? I don't just say that because I like saying it. This is the stuff that I say we because I'm part of HR, but Holly and Jackie need in order to make things happen. Oh, look, it says Associate Deputy Chancellor, Human Resource Management. I'm going to fix that right now. If you prefer to discuss the situation with somebody of a different gender than Ms. Jordan, then that accommodation can be made. Next, under procedures, we have paragraph B that says supervisors and managers will cover this subject area annually as part of a continuing education program for employees. And if you need assistance, or if your boss needs assistance, your supervisor needs assistance getting this done, feel free to give me a call. I'll stop by and I'll do a briefing on the policy like I just did with y'all. And that'll be your annual requirement. You don't have to go through the whole EEO SHP course again, but yearly, this topic should be mentioned, should be briefed, should be covered in some way or another, even if it's just reading through the policy. All right, this is policy 210. These are your grievance procedures. Well, they're mine too, but I guess I could say our grievance procedures. The purpose of this policy is to provide a mechanism for employees to discuss complaints or problems with management and to ensure fairness and consistency in CTCD's relations with its employees. So one of the things you need to understand is that if a complaint is filed against someone for a certain behavior, one of the ways they determine what action should be taken is they look at previous occurrences of similar behaviors. And that's what they're going to use as a basis for applying discipline. Not punishment. We don't punish. We discipline. Okay? Punishment is harsh and negative in nature. Discipline is simply providing the tools to turn a less productive employee back into being a productive employee. Okay? So don't think we punish people here. We apply discipline in an effort to bring them back as a productive member of CTC's family. This policy applies to all CTCD employees at all locations. So all employees of CTCD are provided the opportunity to file a complaint related to a condition of employment or application of a policy that employee feels is unjust or inequitable. With the exception of full-time faculty, former employees are not eligible to file a grievance. CTC does not engage with or allow participation of third parties regarding internal employee matters. And these are the procedures. Pretty self-explanatory, mostly what I've already talked about. Experience has demonstrated that problems are normally best resolved through informal discussion. Therefore, employees are encouraged to first discuss problems with the individual or individuals the employee is having problems with. So again, resolution at the lowest level. Go talk to the person. Say, hey, I don't appreciate what you did. I don't appreciate what you said. This makes me uncomfortable, whatever. Okay. If the problem is not resolved between the individuals, the employee seeking resolution, their grievance, may discuss any remaining issues with their immediate supervisor or the next higher level management. If the problem directly involves the supervisor, if an adverse relationship exists with the supervisor or the grievant is not comfortable speaking with the supervisor about the issue. Following a chain of command is encouraged as it is important to the integrity of the grievance process and the effective resolution of conflict. We need to have faith in our chain of command. So our chain of command needs to provide that, I guess what you call an open door policy, an open ear policy. Sit down willing to listen to what the coworker, what the subordinate has to say. What is it that's causing them problems? And then figuring out what can be done with it. If the problem is not satisfactorily resolved between the grievant and appropriate supervisory personnel, the grievant may discuss the problem with the Chief Human Resource Officer, Ms. Jordan, or her designee within 15 calendar days of the resolution from the grievance supervisory chain of command. So you have, after you've talked to your supervisor, you have 15 days, 15 days. 15 days to bring it to HR. If the grievant has concerns about following the chain of command, he or she may bring the concern directly to Human Resources. You may be asked to provide a written statement that includes your recommended resolution. So this is the problem. What would you like to see done about it? Be realistic. Be realistic, okay? You're not going to see, for the most part, whoever you're having a problem with, you're not going to see them fired or moved to another department. Again, we're adults, we're professionals, we have to be able to work with our coworkers. Don't have to like them, you just have to be polite and cordial while you're at work. So be realistic if you're going to recommend some sort of action. All employees are required to fully cooperate with all CTC college investigations. Notice of the outcome will be provided to both parties. Again, don't expect to know or to hear every single thing that happened. Your allegations were addressed and appropriate action was taken. That's a good answer that you're going to hear. You're not going to hear what action was taken. If the grievant is dissatisfied with the resolution reached by the Chief Human Resource Officer or designee and desires further review of the complaint, the employee must request in writing to the Chief Human Resource Officer to initiate an examination by a review committee. The employee will have 15 calendar days from the date of the notice from Human Resources to make that request. Okay, so if you're not happy with the HR investigation, you have 15 days when they're finished to request an examination by a review committee. Within 5 working days of receiving such a request, the Chief Human Resource Officer will form a review committee. Committee members will include the executive officer in the chain of command of the accused employee's activities or his or her designee. Committee members will include the executive officer in the chain of command of the accused employee's activities or his or her designee, and 2 deans or associate vice chancellors. One of the first acts of business of the committee is to identify the chair. Along with the investigation documentation submitted by Human Resources, the committee shall review any documentation submitted by the grievant and at their discretion may request further information from testimony or further documentation from the grievant, Human Resources, or other witnesses as determined. The committee will provide a finding to both parties within 15 calendar days of reaching its determination. So a lot of time-sensitive information comes in here, right? 15 days from the first one, 15 days from the second one, 5 days after the second one, and then this one will be done 15 days after that, okay? If the grievant is a direct report to the chancellor, the complaint will be addressed by a mediation service. Mediation is the final step in the grievance process for direct reports of the chancellor. Copies of the documentation will not be provided to the grievant or employees being complained about. Again, this is one of those situations where you don't have a right to know everything that's going on with the complaint. If you want to appeal the process, again, 15 calendar days after the committee's determination, then you have to submit a request to the Vice Chancellor, Finance and Administration for an appeal. Again, information from the complaint investigation, information from the files. This just talks about how they're going to handle the files. Confidentiality, again, they're going to maintain confidentiality to the best of their ability, but they cannot promise complete confidentiality. Full-time faculty members' grievance rights. Full-time faculty members and full-time instructors can present a grievance to the Vice Chancellor over the employee on an issue related to non-renewal or termination of the faculty member's employment at the institution. CTCD may not, by contract, by policy, or procedure, restrict the faculty member or full-time instructor's rights to present a grievance under this section. The faculty grievance process will include the review and appeal steps as indicated in paragraph A 3 through 5 and B of this policy. All right, this is where, remember, way back we were in policy 220, where it talked about reporting in good faith. This is what I was referring to. Any employee who knowingly files or should have known of the likelihood that they are filing a false or unwarranted complaint in an attempt to attack or discredit another employee, or that disrupts the operation of CTCD, may be subject to discipline up to and including termination. So don't use this system as a vengeance tool. Because if it's found out that you're reporting frivolous information, you're making stuff up just to try and get somebody else in trouble, you're going to be the one getting in trouble. You'll be the one receiving the discipline. So make these complaints in good faith. All right, that's policy 210. We're going to move on now. I'm going to try and breeze through this. I know it's getting a little bit long because I threw the policies in, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do, okay? So who's right in these situations? Well, it depends because perceptions are different. Your perception is your reality, and it's likely not the same as mine, not likely the same as the person next to you. So that's one of these situations where I said, tolerate different behavior because we're not all the same. What's inappropriate to one person might be perfectly acceptable to another. People have different filters. Some people are more accepting of inappropriate behavior, which none of us should be accepting of inappropriate behavior. But some folks are. They don't want to rock the boat. Some of us aren't afraid to rock the boat. There's no single test that distinguishes what is sexual harassment and what is merely offensive or inappropriate conduct. Granted, depending on what happened will make a difference. But again, a single isolated incident does not make sexual harassment. It may still be inappropriate, and we should all be able to identify inappropriate behavior, especially for here at CTC, an Institute of Higher Education. We need to be setting the example for all those young folks coming through our doors. Sometimes context is important, but context isn't an excuse to do things that are inappropriate. I won't get into detail with that. You know what I'm talking about, okay? All right, now we're going to talk about Title IX. What is Title IX? You can see here, Title IX prohibits against discrimination. No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subject to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. That's Title IX of the Education Amendments Act. The U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights, they're the folks who enforce Title IX. And there it says exactly what I just read for you here. Right? We want to make sure that everybody gets the same opportunities. So there's a lot of situations that could occur that puts our young folks in jeopardy. We need to be able to identify these things. So this is policy 221. This is our sexual misconduct policy. I've spent a lot of time on policies. I'm not going to read this whole policy. I'll give you a few seconds to take a look at this. The purpose. It's pretty simple. And then the scope. And then we'll just kind of roll through some more of this. Definitions, there are quite a few definitions in this policy. One of the ones that I want to point out to is consent. Consent is an affirmative, unambiguous, voluntary, and conscious decision by each involved participant engaging in a specific, agreed-upon sexual activity. Consent can never be implied. Basically, what that means is it got two people engaged in a situation. I'll call it a situation. Both parties have to be able to give consent throughout the whole process. Now, that doesn't mean you have to, lay there and say, yes, go ahead, please do it some more, go ahead. That's not what that means. What that means is if one of the two parties becomes unresponsive for whatever reason, drugs, alcohol, maybe some sort of mental impairment, if they can no longer give consent, then whatever is going on in that situation needs to stop. All right, consent must be ongoing. It says it right there. Consent is active, not passive, and silence is not consent. Uh-oh, we backed up here. Let me get back to where we were. There we go. Not passive and silence. Right? Silence, like I said, is not consent. All right, some examples of indicators that a person is incapacitated and does not have the ability to give proper consent. Okay, just a few examples. This isn't an all-inclusive list. Number one, they're under the legal age limit. And you may or may not have picked it up earlier in my scrolling through the policy, but 17 is the age of consent in Texas. Consumption of alcohol. The law says anyone under the influence of alcohol or drugs cannot legally give consent. If they're imbalanced or stumbling, or if they have slurred speech, again, this could be a result of alcohol, drugs, or mental impairment. Lack of consciousness. Like I said, they have to be awake. Or low intellectual capacity. Again, that's the mental impairments. Dating violence is also covered under this policy, as well as domestic violence, sexual assault, forcible rape, fondling, incest, statutory rape, sexual exploitation, sexual voyeurism, taking pictures of someone when they don't want you to, or it's inappropriate. Okay, a lot of things. Hiding in the closet to take pictures of somebody while they undress, sneaking in the restroom, taking pictures. That's all bad. Exposing your genitals to somebody else. Sexual harassment falls under this category. Sexual misconduct and stalking. are all part of this. All right, due to technical difficulties, I went ahead and switched over to the actual policy from the HR Policies and Procedures Manual. So we just finished all the definitions, right? Misconduct, stalking. The policy, CTCD, prohibits discrimination and harassment on the basis of sex, gender identity, pregnancy, and parental status. So there's a new one for you, parental status. You cannot treat people differently because they have children. CTCD also prohibits all forms of sexual misconduct, including but not limited to sexual harassment, sexual assault, sexual exploitation, dating violence, domestic violence, sexual coercion, and stalking. A lot of those definitions we just saw. All interpersonal relationships and interactions, especially those of an intimate nature, must be grounded upon mutual respect, open communication, and clear consent. Sexual activity must be consensual, otherwise it's sexual assault. For reporting, the first thing we want to do is we want to get the victim to a safe place. So if somebody comes to you and said they've been the victim of sexual assault, get them to a safe place. Then you're going to want to call campus police. It doesn't matter where the assault took place. If they report it here on campus, you're going to call the campus police. Campus police will take over and make sure that the individual gets medical attention necessary. Don't let the individual go to the bathroom. Don't let them shower. Don't let them change clothes. No cleanup afterwards. We want to preserve evidence as much as possible. CTC employees and contractors who have a reason to know of or suspect sexual misconduct has occurred on a CTC campus or sponsored event are required. You see that? You are required to promptly report all incidents related to sexual misconduct to any of the following: the Title IX coordinator, campus police, local police, our student and employee assistance program, the Dean of Student Success and Persistence, or the Associate Deputy Chancellor, who is now the Chief Human Resource Officer here in HR. Again, I'm not gonna read all of this. You've been policied to death. But get out here, finish reading this, have a good understanding of what's required. Again, as this talks about retaliation, you shouldn't be retaliated against. And then the last part of the policy gives victims resources. One way that you can report sexual assault, sexual misconduct, is on the CTC homepage. If I go to www.ctcd.edu, and you're going to see this later in the slide, but I'm here, I might as well go ahead and show it to you. Scroll all the way to the bottom. In here you'll see report sexual misconduct. See that? Report sexual misconduct. There's the link. If you click on that link, it takes you to an anonymous form. You don't even have to log into eTree for this. You can do it off campus. You can log out of your computer, do this on your phone or on a tablet, whatever the case may be. This is an anonymous form. Fill this out, click the submit button, and off it goes. All right, let's get back to slides. Back to slides. Reporting process. Faculty should report all incidents. Staff should report all incidents. Okay, so basically anything that has to do with sexual behavior, sexual harassment, sexual assault, rape, stalking, any of those need to be reported as soon as possible. This isn't one of those things where, okay, I'm gonna wait. I got 180 days to do this. No, you don't. From the time you know it happens, get out there and report it. Call campus police. Call risk management. Call HR. 3 easy ones to remember. Or you can use the online report of sexual misconduct. There's the example. Okay. Again, the bottom line for this is zero tolerance. No retaliation against people who oppose bad behavior. All right, let me ask you a question. How would you react if you walked into your office and you heard people telling dirty jokes? What would you do? What if you walked in and you saw one of your coworkers giving another coworker the eyeball? What would you do? Or what if you walked in, you heard two of your coworkers having discussions about sex? Dude, let me tell you what I did this weekend. Or what if you saw them on their phone, or maybe they're texting, or they're talking to their significant other on the phone, talking about all the good things they're going to do tonight after the kids go to bed. What are you going to do? Or what if you just have one of those people in your office who won't stop dropping the F-bomb or calling people all names? How would you react? Because what you need to think about is not everybody is brave enough to report this kind of bad behavior. I'm a firm believer in that if people know you're not afraid to report their bad behavior, they won't behave badly around you. I know when I walk into a situation, if I walk into an office or I walk into a group of people, I hear, shh, and I just puff my chest out and I get a big old grin on my chest, say, damn right, here comes Scott. Because they know I'm not afraid to report their bad behavior if they're doing something they're not supposed to. You should be one of those people too. What would I do if I walked into my office and I heard all this? I would be the first one to walk up and tell them that that's inappropriate for the workplace. Cut it out. And I'm going to document. I do things a little backwards. I jack them up first, then I document what happened. Don't be afraid to put a stop to bad behavior. Even if you don't find it offensive, right? Inappropriate. What about terms of endearment? Sweetheart, darling, baby. Do those have a place in a professional environment? Should faculty members be calling their students sweetheart? No. Should coworkers be calling each other sweetheart, darling, or baby? No. Use their name tags. Use their name tags. There's a name on their name tags. Call them by their name. If they're not wearing a name tag, just stop after hey. Not hey, darling, or hey, sweetie, or hey, baby. Just hey, how you doing? And then maybe through conversation, you'll pick up their name. But don't just throw out a term of endearment, assuming that they're okay with that. A lot of people are okay with that. But it only takes one to consider that a sexual advance. And yes, it very well could be a sexual advance. So be careful. And then computer images, just don't. Use CTC computers for their intended purposes. And just because you're on your phone or your tablet, if you're on the CTC Wi-Fi, you're using CTC equipment, and you don't need to be surfing porn or looking at inappropriate images that way either. Be careful. So why don't people report? Well, I've mentioned a few in the past, but maybe they're embarrassed because of what happened. Maybe they believe the behavior will stop if they ignore it. No. Remember I mentioned earlier about that power thing? If somebody's harassing you, it's because they think they have some sort of power over you. And if you just try and ignore what they're doing, if you don't do something to make them stop that bad behavior, that just builds up their power. It's perceived power, but it's power. Maybe they're afraid of losing their job or their job status. Maybe they're a fear of retaliation. I hear that so many times. Well, I don't want to get in trouble for reporting them. That's retaliation. Retaliation is unlawful. It's illegal. It's against CTC policy. Maybe they're afraid of being blamed for the bad behavior. As long as you're not an instigator, if you're not doing things to provoke other people to do things inappropriate, then you don't need to worry about being blamed. You're not going to get blamed for being sexually harassed because of what you're wearing. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, what can I wear to work today so that I can be sexually harassed? Doesn't happen. So that's not going to be a part of the case. Don't be afraid to report bad behavior, folks. So again, the reporting procedures. Talk to the offended or the offending person, the person who's doing the bad behavior. Talk to their immediate supervisor. Go to the next higher level if you need to. Remember, document, 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 right? Document, report, document, report, document, report. And then you work your way up the chain if you're comfortable with that. If you're not comfortable with that, you can go straight to HR. How do we prevent this kind of behavior? Well, become familiar with your right to work in an environment that's free from harassment and discrimination. We all have that right. It says so in the policy. We have to support the policy. And we do that by reporting bad behavior. And then supervisors enforce the policy by administering discipline for breaking the policies. It takes all of us. Be prepared to assert that right. Like I said, the more people know you're not afraid to report them, the less likely they are to behave badly around you. Conduct yourself in a business-like manner. You can come to work and you can enjoy yourself and get the job done and have fun without violating CTC policy. If your sole purpose is to harass people, then don't bother coming to work. Dress appropriately. Okay, CTC policy 250. Let me show you real quick. CTC policy 250. It's right here. Dress code. Pretty simple. Naturally, it applies to everybody. There are a few key parts to this, right? All outer garments should fit properly. Clothing shall be of appropriate size and properly laundered. So clean, well-fitting clothes. That's not hard to do. Administrative support and instructional staff should wear business professional attire. What's business professional attire? Well, it's down here. It's traditional 2 or 3-piece suit, dress slacks and dress shirt or polo shirt. You can wear a dress, you can wear a pantsuit, skirt with a blouse, capri or 3/4 pants as long as they're below the bottom of the knee, and then approved uniforms for other departments depending on where you work. Business casual on Friday, jeans but no t-shirts. Okay, jeans but no t-shirts, and no t-shirts or no jeans with holes in them. There's a list of appropriate shoes, and then there's some prohibited attire that you should read through at your leisure because it's pretty specific on things. Okay, again, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I've policied you to death. I want to go ahead and get this finished so you can move on with your life. Make sure you're familiar with policy 220. Right, I went through it maybe a little bit fast. Go out to the HR Policies and Procedures Manual, read through it. Make sure you understand what's in there. If you have questions, again, feel free to give me a call. Put my phone number up here. I'll put my email address up here. I'll be glad to try and answer any questions you have. If I can't, Jackie and Holly work right down the hall. I can get help from them. Faculty-specific responsibilities, this is easy. You are the kings and queens of the classroom. So recognize your own role in preventing harassment and discrimination. Make a personal commitment to enforcing enforcing the policy. That's pretty simple. Policy 220 applies to students as well as employees. Examine your own behavior. Make sure you don't do things that others may find offensive. Don't touch your students. Don't use terms of endearments towards your students. Be a professional. Get the job done. Have fun while you're doing it. Develop a greater awareness of the cues that your students may be giving you that something's going on within the classroom or outside the classroom. Identify behavior that requires preventive action. If something's happening in your classroom, don't turn around and start drawing on the board. Address that bad behavior. And then examine all allegations. If a student comes to you with allegations of harassment or discrimination, it's your responsibility to examine those allegations. Contact your department chair, your dean, HR, if you have questions about what to do. And then take appropriate action. For everybody else, a personal behavior checklist. Conduct a self-assessment. Make sure you don't do things that others may find offensive or inappropriate. Doesn't have to be offensive, just inappropriate. Okay? Are you a toucher? Do you have to touch somebody before your lips will move and talk to them? Do you always ask people, what church do you go to? You might not get the right answers, okay? Do you touch yourself in places where you shouldn't be touching yourself? Right? We have adjusters. They adjust different parts of the body. That kind of stuff should be done in private, not walking down the hall, not in the classroom, not in the office. Ask yourself, does my behavior help accomplish CTC's goals? Am I working towards the big picture? Granted, you're going to have downtime. You got your morning break and your afternoon break. Maybe you're having a banana and some peanuts or something. Casual time. Take 10 minutes, chat with your coworkers. Take 10 minutes, read your email, read the newspaper, whatever you need to do for those 10 minutes. But outside of that break time, are you doing something that's enhancing your job? Doing something that's going to make CTC look good? Are you doing something to accomplish CTC's goals? Ask yourself, could this behavior hurt coworkers or students? Could others find my behavior offensive or inappropriate? Are you the habitual F-bomb dropper? Are you the habitual term of endearment user? You just never know when somebody's going to find that stuff inappropriate and report it. Could an outsider see my behavior as harmful or harassing? Well, maybe everybody in the office knows how you that's just how God is. But somebody from outside the office, maybe the chancellor is making a walkthrough. And here's you dropping the F-bomb and calling everybody sweetheart, darling, or baby. I don't think the chancellor would find that appropriate. Could my behavior send out signals that invites harassment? Well, remember I talked earlier about being an instigator. Don't be an instigator. When in doubt, just don't do it, folks. Okay? Just don't. Come to work, do your job, be polite, be respectful, no matter who the other person is, no matter what their beliefs are, no matter how they're dressed. Be respectful. So, in summary, we want a harassment-free campus. It's critical to accomplishing CTC's mission because we want happy, productive employees, not employees who are afraid to get up and walk down the hall because of who they might encounter on the way. We want good relationships between students and employees of all races, religions, colors, national origins, genders, and sexes. We'll throw age in there too, because we have a very, very wide age range of employees and of students. So again, we need to be respectful. So if you feel the need to report some sort of bad behavior, Here are your points of contact. For Title IX issues, contact the Director of Risk Management. For staff issues, you can contact either the Chief Human Resource Officer or the EEO Coordinator. For faculty, contact your respective dean, the Dean of Academic Instruction here on main campus, the Dean Career and Technical Instruction here on main campus, our Dean of Military Programs over on Fort Cavazos. And if it's an issue between students, contact the Director of Student Life. So in summary or in closing, I'd like to welcome y'all to CTC. Hopefully I'll see you around campus. And here is your pass key. The pass key is case sensitive, so it's 59 asterisk capital D, lowercase v, lowercase k, at symbol. So in closing, I'm going to say thanks for being here. I appreciate your time. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay happy. And we'll talk to you later. Passkey. Get out there, retrieve EEO completion form, submit it.